I love the motivation that people have around automation and agentic.
We need to go to where the people are.
How we ensure that people benefit from their data. What's been interesting is not just the different technologies that are emerging, but the speed at which they emerge.
Welcome to the SAICTA Digital Thursday podcast. This is our first episode, and in our first episode, we are hoping to bring you insights from the TICON Africa Conference 2025, which was focused on shaping the future of ICT and automation across the continent. We are proud to show what SAICTA has in store for you and where we are headed as a continent. Africa stands at a digital inflection point, a moment not defined by adoption, but by acceleration. Across the continent, a new generation of innovators, educators, and technologists are harnessing the power of automation, AI, and data to unlock the new pathways for inclusive growth. Across the continent, the conversation is shifting. How do we ensure that the technology that we have built for Africa is also used to shape Africa? How can we align innovation with upliftment and growth with equity? At the TICON Africa 2025 conference, we interviewed quite a few different thought leaders, policymakers, and IT professionals who gathered to explore these questions. In our Digital Thursday feature, we bring you key insights from 4 conversations that capture Africa's journey toward a more intelligent, more automated, and more empowered digital future. Automation is redefining productivity across industries, but in Africa, its potential extends even further, creating scalable efficiencies while bridging gaps in service delivery, governance, and opportunity. Don't you want to share some of your thoughts about what your first experience on the African continent has been like, with some of our delegates from the different countries?
Perfect, sure. First of all, hello, Jackie. It's really, really nice to be here talking to you. And to see how it all unfolds in Africa, the T0 moment of where UiPath have brought the certifications, the new certifications, and all the effort with the Academic Alliance, the program that I manage in EMEA. It's amazing. I love the energy. I love the people. I love the music. I love the food. But most of all, I love the motivation that people have around automation and agentic. I mean, it's something. It's a desire that I haven't seen in a long time. So UiPath has recently spoken about the Act 2, agentic automation part. In Act 1, we had the RPA technology, the robotic process automation, and this is where I started with all the hype, and to see the same level of, let's say, hope and desire to something new, something exclusive, something innovating through the agentic automation here in Africa. It's amazing. It's amazing.
This is great. And I mean, UiPath has finally come to the African continent. We posted our first and our biggest certification day here at the TICON conference. It's been incredible to see, the response that we've gotten and the enthusiasm. I think that's been really great to see. We've also had different professional bodies that have reached out to us and said, we would like to start to run these kinds of initiatives and upskill people in Africa. What are your thoughts on what these collaborations could actually mean to UiPath and not just to the African continent as well?
I really don't even know where to start from. So from day one, I was blown away by the interest people have in the programs that we at UiPath are driving. Specifically with the Academic Alliance, where I try to partner with university, with NGOs, in order to bring the courses, the certifications to the students for free. Let me put it this way: in 2 hours, I got 7 contact cards. It's the most I had in the last 5 events all combined in Europe. It was amazing. It was amazing. And I will definitely have to work a lot after this event. The follow-up will be huge, but I'm so excited about the new steps. And as you said, the biggest certification event hosted in Africa yet. I would like to point that it's the biggest event yet. I will mark it in my calendar notes. What was the final amount of people that have taken the certification, and I will make a poll and a ranking of the future events that I will definitely be part of here in Africa.
This is incredible. And I mean, we had some of our first professionals here in Africa upskilled and certified as agentic automation professionals, or actually associates today. So it's been incredible to see how, the conversations we've had from a standards perspective with the different panel discussions have actually turned into real life action. And it's great to see how this has come together. So we thank you very much for the contribution from UiPath. We thank you for your continued partnership. And we're really excited to pick this up in the next few months and drive the SAICTA and TICON partnership with.
Let's keep the ball rolling, and if there are more people like you, let them come. If our collaboration has done this, I cannot imagine if more people will involve. What would be the impact, the real impact? So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to our next events.
As automation becomes more intelligent, its true value lies not only in the code that drives it, but the people who bring it to life. Technology alone cannot transform marginalized economies, but people can. We must ensure those communities can reap the benefits of technological enhancements too. Across Africa, ICT skills development is becoming the cornerstone of social and economic upliftment, preparing youth for industries that didn't exist a decade ago. I had the privilege of interviewing Viola Dondo, who is the Executive Director of the Computer Society of Zimbabwe. She shed light on these challenges that are faced by marginalized communities in Africa and what solutions we could potentially put forward to solve this.
Thank you very much, Teki. I'm excited to come to this particular TICON conference. One reason I got the most important takeaway for me was just the networking, meeting the various people from different countries, seeing that they also have challenges that we also had. But in addition, they also have solutions that we can also implement. So for me, that has really been amazing.
This is brilliant.
Yeah.
So Viola, your work in the standards space, specifically looking at skills development in Zimbabwe, has definitely been something that has come up quite a few times in the conversations we've had over the last few days. Would you like to explain to us a little bit about how you can see some of these initiatives that have been shared at TICON influencing the work that you're doing in Zimbabwe?
Certainly. So what I've seen, there's a lot of things happening in the different countries. And these are countries just like our own. They have a lot of challenges, but they're overcoming those, trying to see how best they can deal with the situation and still be of value. So I'm already taking notes to say, what can we do? Yes, we have challenges, so we can also be able to make a difference. In the skills side of it, we have a lot of people in the marginalized community. And we were scratching our heads to say, how best can we help them? I've learned, for example, from Malawi, that they are going to those communities and saying, okay, we are here as the banking people to be able to see how we can assist you. We are coming to where you are to bring a solution that you mean. So maybe we haven't been doing enough in Zimbabwe. We need to go to where the people are and saying, with what you had, how best can we assist you so you're not left behind?
This is incredible. And I'm excited to see the work that is going to unfold. I mean, we've already started to have conversations around how we can take things like the certification days that we've had at TICON into the different communities and the different associates or professional bodies that we have in the different countries. So the association is not necessarily the associates, but how do you see these kinds of collaborations that we start to build with our different vendors playing a role in your ability to go to the community and empower people, grow their skills, develop their ability to actually become part of the economically active population in the different countries?
I'm seeing this as already putting us as an organization at a higher level where we'll be respected, because now we're bringing relevant exactly the things that the people need. It's certifications. They need certifications. So we're going out there to say, with the collaboration that we've built, we are bringing a solution. We're bringing the answer that you need. So as an organization, our value will be elevated, and then we'll also become relevant. They will look to us for solutions and say, how can we be able to be connected? What can we do? And we'll really become that professional body that I look forward to having, making a difference in the country. So I am looking forward to those certifications, and I know the moment we announce it, it will be oversubscribed.
As the continent's skills base grows, so does the responsibility to ensure that technology serves everyone equally, ethically, and sustainably. Artificial intelligence is the engine of modern economies, but its power demands disciplined and principled governance. For Africa, the challenge is clear. How do we leverage AI and data for progress without deepening the divide? Dr. Jimson Lulifi, the chair of the African ICT Alliance in Nigeria, sheds light on this. My first question for you is, you've shared a lot of knowledge throughout the conference about indigenous knowledge systems and what they mean to you. Would you like to take us through some of your thought process and some of the conversations you've had at this conference so far around IKS?
It's been a great event, and it's very intellectually stimulating, thought-provoking, and quite engaging. Yes, as the representative of the Africa ICT Alliance, let me just tell you briefly about it. The Africa ICT Alliance was set up in 2012 with 6 countries, and by today, 2025, we are in 43 countries in Africa. Our vision is to fulfill the promise of the digital age for everyone in Africa. So we're made up of ICT association, industry association, that mostly companies, industrial association, company professionals across Africa. And we have been engaged with the United Nations in terms of speaking on behalf of Africa from the private sector perspective. You also engage with AU, African Union. My daily life, I'm a principal consultant at contemporary consultancies, so we do a lot of consultation around digitalization. So we consult also for the United Nations, we go for its World Bank projects, and the federal government of Nigeria also do research. So we have been following this discussion around data. Individual data is a subset of data as itself. And this has been on for quite a while. When we had the internet, most people didn't know how it was. Most governments were not really, they didn't take notice until the World Bank and the ITU, they come up with a report that ICT helps with development. ICT, that's the internet, helps with development. Then government took notice. And based on that, most government now found out that the United States was mostly behind the internet, especially when it comes to the top level domain, goods domain management. That is the IANA function of the internet. And so they call for a summit. Let all head of states come together and let us discuss this issue. And so there was a summit in 2003 in Geneva, and they could not finish. So there are now another summit in 2005 in Tunis, so-called the Tunis Agenda. So from 2005, there are a lot of declaration government agreed to that they would need to use ICT to ensure that people, develop. It's an inclusive information system, information society, wherein can use internet and ICT to empower the people. So it's about empowering the people. It's about enabling the people to boost their productivity and their also well-being. And so in this action line, there are about 11 of them, talking about infrastructure, talking about access to data, access to information and knowledge. We're talking about capacity development, talking about security, talking about applications, and so on and so forth. So I have the privilege of being in the the board for the review of the research. Because it's been 20 years now, 2005, and now was 20 years. So I want to be in the board of the General Assembly co-part informal multi-stakeholder sounding board. So I represent Africa. And the discussion is, how has it been so far? Now in the age of AI, there'll be a lot of discussion, okay? Because other AI, you see AI scooping data all around the place, and for the benefits of few. Infrastructure is being really put together, say, across the West, the America, could be in Europe and China. So how is it going to be with us? We need just scoop our data, okay, and make profit out of it. Because there's a lot of money to make out of it. Because we say data is the new oil, needs it. And so the review is looking at how can we ensure that people benefit from their data, which is part of the original plan anyway. People benefit from the data. Meanwhile, AI is an application, as you mentioned before, and then and data is, we have a lot of data, indigenous data in particular. These are sacred data, so that sacred information, for which there's, even though we say information should be accessible, but there's value in this information which you should derive benefits from. That may not have the humongous infrastructure, okay, for AI, but at least our data, we should benefit from it. So that is why the conversation around this is so relevant.
Strong governance supports sustainable innovation, and sustainable innovation depends on research, collaboration, and continuous learning. As the digital economies expand, the role of research in guiding their evolution becomes essential. Understanding emerging technologies and how they interact with Africa's social and economic landscape is vital to sustainable progress. Dr. Japie Greef, Research Coordinator, Belgian Campus, IT-versity, sheds light on this. What has been your biggest takeaway from TICON this year?
It was really interesting to see just how many delegates with so many different backgrounds we could get into one room at this conference. Obviously, I'm more used to academic conferences rather than industry conferences. But generally, when you look at industry events, there's very few people from academia. If you look at academic events, very few people from industry. And this really was a melting pot. We had people from universities, we had people from regulatory bodies, we had people from industry, and it really showed that there are so many things that we have in common that we want to tackle in the African context. All of us look at the concept of skills and employability from the university perspective. We're trying to see how we can get students employed in the most effective way. From the industry perspective, they're interested to know, how can we make students more employable? And from a regulatory perspective, they want to see how they can facilitate, this movement of people. So I found that really, really interesting to see how we can find the common ground between all of our different worlds for countries in the African context.
I think it's a very good point that you make, because understanding, how government has come to play a role from the different countries, being able to see the representatives we have here, have them on panels where we've got diverse conversation happening. I think it's been something that has been very unique, but also very interesting to this year's TICON. I know there's been, many really good conversations that have come up in some of these different panels. But in your opinion, what are some of the emerging technology trends that we've started to see come out of the different countries that make up TICON?
So I think, obviously, looking at robotic process automation and agentic AI has obviously been a big theme for not just the TICON conference, but also on the AMC side of things. I think a lot of people are grappling with how we really move into this world of the fifth industrial revolution, where we are going to have more and more and more AI agents, working alongside us. I also think that what's been interesting is not just the different technologies that are emerging, but the speed at which they emerge. I think a lot of people are a bit shocked at how quickly things are changing. And yet at the same time, how important it is to, keep the fundamentals strong and really ensure that we do practice good governance, that we do consider ethics, that we do consider security, instead of just letting people loose, left, right, center. So I think that's been very, very interesting. And again, really seeing this alignment between the different spheres of society, because it's not just academics that are thinking about this. We've got regulators that are worried about this. We've got industry people trying to grapple with how you can, most economically viably implement these sorts of technologies. So again, I think it's more to do with what we share in common and what we can guide ourselves, as a community with, than it is about, having disparate views of how technology is playing with society.
It's a very interesting view, I must say. I mean, we've also seen cybersecurity, come up a few times as well. We have a lot of cybersecurity specialists here with us as well. Based on the conversations you've seen and how these different technologies have come together, are you seeing any new emerging research outputs that can be coming from conferences like this?
I think the power of TICON is that it is not necessarily bound by research outputs. And I think the world is changing a little bit in terms of what research is and what the value of research is. Previously, I think there's been a really huge focus on things like academic journals, but the review cycle and how long it takes for research to actually hit a publication has become a bit of a problem. So people have been focusing a little bit more on conferences in areas like artificial intelligence and even cybersecurity, just because of the speed of interaction. And on top of that, I think it may even have to do with COVID. But remote work has become very, very common in the IT industry, and it has caused people to be a little bit more disconnected in many ways. And a conference like this is a great opportunity to network, to really have those kind of in-person workshops and conversations that are so valuable. So again, I think we're seeing so many changes in the world. Some of them good, some of them bad. I think the fact that people are a bit more remote is generally a good thing, but I definitely think we shouldn't lose that human touch. So yeah, I think I've diverged a little bit from your question. In terms of what research, what the role of research is and what research is emerging. But again, as I say, this sort of conference is not really driven by research. I think if anything, what we're going to see is research emerging after the conference, because a lot of what's happening here is being less about presenting research findings and more about raising questions, really trying to understand, what are the problems we should be tackling, what are the places we should be collaborating in. I think one of the things that stood out quite strongly for me from the TICON conference is really people saying, well, all of our different countries need regulation, they need guidance from, regulatory bodies and governments, but the countries are grappling on their own with how to do it more effectively. And if we could have more of an African or Africa-wide collaboration on these concepts of regulation such, it would add so much value. So I think I don't know. I think I'm still quite reflected on the conference. It's just finished, but yeah, I think it was really, really interesting.
Okay, this is good to hear. I mean, just latching onto what you've said as well in our panel interview as well, we had a lot of conversation around, what the traditional role of a university is. And I think it also touches quite closely on what you were saying about research outputs and how, traditional universities were very much known for building academics and, being able to grow the skills that you need to be able to do good qualitative, quantitative, but also very high quality research. And something that we saw quite a lot of engagements on from the audience was, how does this help industry? How do we kind of open up those doors that, university student can go into multiple fields and, pursue different careers, and, what's the role of vocational colleges or those kinds of universities in our society as well. And I kind of want to touch a little bit more on the conversation around what do you think we can do going forward into the different initiatives that we're going to be running over the next few months to start to kind of bring all these different conversations that we've had here together, where we bring the tech inclusivity, we bring the empowerment of entrepreneurs, business development leaders, those kinds of things. And then also try and encapsulate that into this understanding of standards, skills development, industry, those kinds of things. How do we bring all of this together?
So I think, if anything, it requires a lot more conversations and a lot more multidisciplinary conversations. I think for a very long time, there's been a very big divide, at least in the South African context, between our vocational colleges and our universities, and even to a certain extent, our universities of technology. And yet they all serve the same market. So they're, whenever you point out a difference between two things, you automatically create a hierarchy. And I think that's been a little bit of a barrier for us for the longest time. So I think what's going to be very important for us going forward is really understanding what the role is of each of these stakeholders in the wider market. Not everyone needs to go to university necessarily. And in the same breath, universities are not just, degree molds that serve only industry. So I think it's important for us to understand what is the role of the university in terms of qualifying people for careers in research, where they will look at more conceptual things and longer term thinking and planning, versus their role of preparing people for jobs in industry. And at the same time, trying to understand the role of articulation in a graduate's career. It's very difficult to move from a vocational background into the university system because they are quite different. So there's very few opportunities for recognition of prior learning, even though there are often legislated pathways that would allow for it. It just doesn't happen all that much. But it's because people don't really talk. They don't really understand what people are doing in the different spheres of the educational world.
And my last question for you, Professor, before we start to wrap up. What are you excited to see come through SAICTA from this conference, so we can actually start to work with some of our industry partners, that kind of are confederated into SAICTA? How can we bring some of these lessons back and actually make these initiatives come to life in South Africa?
It's important for us to have open lines of communication between the different professional bodies that exist, both inside of countries as well as outside of countries. If I look at the South African context, so obviously SAICTA is represented here at TICON, but there are multiple other bodies that also exist in the ICT sector that serve the needs of different professionals in the ICT wider ecosystem. So I think, if anything, it's important for us to establish professional bodies that don't exist yet, but then once there are bodies that exist, to really ensure that professionals in countries engage with them in a meaningful and active way. I think one of the biggest problems we've got with many societies all over Africa is that they're often tied either to industry or to academia, and there isn't a lot of interplay between those worlds, even inside of the individual country's context. So I think what does excite me about a gathering such as TICON is that it really does try to focus on everyone at the same time and then bring all the stakeholders to the table. So I think what excites me is really the conversations around what's next. How do we take this to the next net, not just for next year's conference, but for the time between now and next year's conference. What are the kinds of initiatives that are going to report on next year to say that they were successful? What are the lessons that we've learned from the interactions we've had, both inside of the sessions as well as afterwards during the social events, even over lunch and such? We've really unpacked a lot of these questions from our different countries, and I think taking those learnings back to our different countries and implementing them and continuing to network as we go through the intervening months, I think is going to be a really, really great experience.
Well, I'm excited to see what we manage to get right in the next year.
From agentic automation to AI ethics, from digital skills to groundbreaking research, Africa's ICT sector is defining its own future. At the heart of this transformation is a shared vision that every technological advance should advance people, that every innovation should bring us closer together and not tear us further apart. SAICTA remains committed to this vision, fostering development, professional growth, and promoting collaboration. Because when Africa leads its own digital revolution, the world will follow.